We gotta introduce you, Lorcan Collins. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, that's right. That'll do me.
How would you know? And how would I say it? No, let's
Lorcan is fine.
Lorcan.
Yeah,
Lorcan Collins, 1916 walking tour.
that's it.
It is currently 5:38, Wednesday, December 3rd here, and in Los Angeles, California. Obviously, it's 9:30
in the
It's a
morning.
little bit early for you guys, much earlier than usual. So what are we doing here? What is the significance of this bar that you brought us to, which is
So-
like a private area underneath the bar, by the way?
It's called the International Bar on Wicklow Street. It's been in the same family, the Donahue family, for 6 generations, which is an incredible amount of time in a Dublin bar. So 30 years ago, when I decided to set up my walking tour, I met with a lot of resistance, you can imagine. I went to the tourist authority and I had all these great ideas, wanted to talk about our revolutionary movement and where we are today, and they were sort of horrified by it. One even said, no, that's the Ireland we want to move away from, the violence, okay? So I hate that kind of attitude, and that actually made me more determined. And I came into this bar. John and James are the owners. They were young lads like myself at the time. We were all in our 20s, and I said, I wouldn't mind setting up a tour, and they were like, yeah, come on, go for it. And it was the second tour in Dublin, and I feel after all these years that I'm very lucky to do what I do, because I get to talk for a living and I get to walk around the streets and, you know, be in the best city in Europe as well, if not in the world. So really what it's all about is this document, as I say, you know, the proclamation, and it's the Irish men and Irish women. So I'll remind you that your country and my country, we didn't have votes for women at the time. So these revolutionaries are way ahead of their time. We got votes for women in Ireland in 1918, but it was restricted to 30-year-old women. You had to be age 30 and have a property qualification.
Oh, wow.
You could be a 21-year-old male. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me, young man and young people, that you are. A 21-year-old does not have the same intellectual capacity and decision-making capability as a 30-year-old woman. In fairness, it's the other way around. The
Yeah.
sooner you suck that up, the easier your life is.
Yeah.
But there's a lovely paragraph, Hasan, that you like. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all its citizens, and declares its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation, cherishing all the children of the nation equally, and oblivious of the differences carefully fostered by an alien government which have divided a minority from the majority in the past.
Yeah, so for the Americans, this is significant because at the time, Ireland is still under colonial occupation.
Correct. And the key word all the time is imperialism.
Yeah.
This is what these guys are fighting against, because you have different sectors of revolutionary society that come together. So some are members of Óglaigh na hÉireann, the Irish Volunteers, which in turn became the IRA. Others are member of the Irish Citizen Army. They happen to be my favourite organisation. They don't have to be yours, but they probably would be. They're called Socialist Republicans. There's a lovely phrase, Socialist
like it.
Republicans. Yeah, bring it on. And there's others who are members of Fianna na hÉireann or Na Fianna Éireann, the Warriors, the Scouting organisation, and of course, Cumann na Mán as well, the Women's Volunteers, and they all came together. Initially, the uprising was planned for Easter Sunday, and we were going to get a big shipment of weapons that were going to come in from Germany. 20,000 rifles were expected to land in County Kerry on a steamship called the Aud, disguised as a Norwegian vessel. Sadly, the weapons ship arrived a little bit earlier, was captured by the British, forced to sail into Cove Harbour in County Cork, and as the ship entered the harbour, a man called Carl Spindler, the captain, scuttled his vessel, and down to the bottom of the sea went all the weapons for the uprising. So what happened is, word got to a man called Owen McNeill, and he cancelled the uprising at the last minute. He took out an advertisement in a newspaper to stand the volunteers, and he asked a few lads to drive around Ireland, stopping the uprising as well. So the 7 men who would become the signatories, the proclamation, these 7 guys, Tom Clark down to Joe Plunkett, they had a meeting in Liberty Hall, the Union building. They trashed out their options on Sunday morning and said, right lads, no one's going to come out today, Sunday. Let's go ahead tomorrow instead, Easter Monday, and kick off at 12 noon. So nobody knew is it on or is it off? Do you get me? You know, if you're planning on going somewhere and it gets cancelled, you get pissed with the organisers, right?
Yeah.
Say you're going to a gig. I don't know, who do you like? Who would you like to go and see? A kneecap.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And if the boys cancelled the gig at the last minute, you'd get annoyed with them. But if they said, come on, we'll have the gig tomorrow night, you'd still go and I'd still go. But a lot of people would say, I'm not going to give them a second chance. So we say about those who did turn out that Easter Monday morning, they were the best of the best. And in our language, in Irish, we say, Ní bhaile héad ann arish. Their likes would not be seen again. The best of the best. Would you like to see these bullets I brought? They're from the bottom
He's
of the sea.
he's got a bunch of stuff for us. Also, when I'm looking down, I'm not being rude. I promise. I'm looking at the chat because chat is giving us feedback as they're watching. So remember, we are going to be doing a revolutionary tour of Ireland, and he's showing us a bunch of. Wow, that is.
So I have a pal, Ben. He's a diver, and he dived down to the site where the ship was sunk, and he brought up a few rounds. Now you can see that they're in a very poor state of decomposition because they've been down at the bottom of the sea for a long time. He brought these up when it was legal to do so. It's illegal to do so now. Yeah. I guess maybe it's...
Why is it illegal to do so now?
A protected structure or a protected site, something like that. But this one is pretty cool because it's so intact. And it's actually, topically, it's a Russian round. It's a Mosin Nagant. So the rounds that we were going to get from the Germans were captured in the Battle of Tannenberg in August 1914, first big battle of World War One, and then they were stored in Hamburg, and then they sent them to us.
These are the German socialists that did that.
What this would be the imperialists, really, the German imperialists. That would be said. Now, our policy, I suppose, at the time was, it's two empires duking it out in Europe.
Whoever's with us.
Is my enemy's enemy my friend? In this case, yes. But James Connolly, who's the socialist Republican leader, he said, by rights, we should meet the Germans if they invaded us, but we will meet them on the beach with a sword in one hand and a torch in the other. So he's not about to replace one imperialist force for another one, but use these...
So the German imperialists that were sending the weapon shipments had a similar attitude that like the French did against in the American Revolution.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
So enemy of my enemy is tactically my friend at the time.
Correct. And we, if we go back to 1798, we had a great year of revolution then with the United Irishmen. Theobald Wolfe got himself a commission in the French Navy, and in 1796, 2 years beforehand, he brought 45 ships to Ireland with 14,500 French soldiers and sailors, and they could have helped tremendously. So we have a place in our heart for the French. Sadly, the weather was too bad and they couldn't land, but they tried, and that's equally important. One last thing to show you here.
A musket, right?
Yeah, it's packed solid into this 18-pounder, a big shell that weighs 18 pounds. And there's that's poisonous, I should tell you in advance, so obviously don't lick it or something like that. But it's lead antimony or antimone. So there was 360 of them packed into the shell, and it exploded in midair and rain down on top of you.
Oh, okay. So that's like, I was going to say, this is a musket.
Yeah, well...
It looks like what I would assume would come out of a musket.
It's very similar. Like, if you look at some of the destruction on the streets of Dublin, this is what it looked like. Complete bombardment. And a lot of fires, of course, that raged around Dublin as well. I mean, this looks like what Gaza looks like at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Now, but this was restricted to a few streets. It wasn't It wasn't the way it is.
Happening.
I'm not.
This
I'm
was
not
happening in 1916.
This is 1916. But what all this destruction of the city and the executions of the leaders, altogether 14 were executed in Dublin, and Roger Casement was hanged by the neck in Pentonville prison, and a man called Thomas Kent was executed down in Cork. So 16 executions, and that helped to change public opinion. It brought people over towards revolution.
At the Trinity College, they were saying that this was one of the few instances where a failed revolution actually fomented a successful one later down the line.
Yeah, see, now, Hasan, I have a little difficulty with the term failed, because
It's not my words.
No,
not my words.
I'm sure it's their words. I know it's their words. And I hear other guides, and they say it a lot. They say things like Robert Emmet's failed uprising in 1803, and then you say, well, where was your uprising? What did you ever do?
True.
You know what it strikes me like? People who are critics.
Do you know what I just realized?
And they never make a movie.
It's right here.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that to you.
Yeah, the cross-section of an 18-pounder shrapnel shell, lead antimony balls.
That's right. That's from a friend of mine, Kieran McMullen, over in America, who was in the American military. I think he was in the army. So he's very good on all this. And he told me that there's a time device here that you twist before you put it into the cannon, right? And then it sends a message through the cordite to a bowl of gunpowder down here, and then explodes, and the pressure sends the shrapnel and the balls in your general direction, you know. So, look, what happened in 1916 was they occupied key buildings, the General Post Office, the GPO, the Four Courts, the Judicial Centre, City Hall. I'd love to bring you up to Dublin Castle and City Hall and show you that at least.
All right, that'd be perfect. Also, I can't help but notice you got this cool pin. What's going on there?
All right, so this is a little thing I made myself. I call it the Gaza lily. We have a symbol called the Easter lily, which is green, white, and orange, which you wear around Easter to symbolise that you support the methods and aims of the men and women of 1916. So I did a few of these up with some friends of mine who make badges, and we sold them for medical aid for Palestine.
Wow.
And of course the stamen is blood red, if you will, and it's the Gazan flag.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, thanks. Well, guess what? I have one for you. You want to? Yeah, how about that?
Hey,
That's pretty
look
cool.
at that.
That's one there for you, pal.
Well, you got some other badges on there.
Well, that was another one I made. It's sort of a ribbon with the same idea. That was actually for the Laji Centre, the Laji Refugee Centre. And this is a commemorative IRA pin, actually. So you might as well have one of them. Maybe don't wear it as you're going back into America.
You say that, but it's really interesting because Americans, on the one hand, get very upset with the anti-colonial resistance movements.
Yeah.
However, in American tradition and American history, you even had Republicans in America, which is different than an Irish Republican, of course, would actually have tip jars at bars, at Irish pubs in America that would then send money directly to the IRA, or even weapons directly to the IRA, right? There was a Republican politician who I think was later caught directly sending arms shipments to the IRA at the time during the Troubles.
Yeah. And you might have heard the phrase like that was on some of those buckets, maybe a book of bullets, maybe that's something I heard. Yeah. Here, look, I'll give you a copy of one of my books as well. This is on James Connolly. I spent a long time writing that. He's a great guy. He spent a long time in the United States. He would have known Big Bill Haywood and Eugene Debs and Mother Jones, Bill Troutman, Elizabeth Gurley Flynn. He stayed there from 1903 to 1910, and he was involved in the IWW, the Wobblies, right? So he's a great fella. Now, for your listeners or
what's going on here? You got this.
I just wanted to mark out a lovely phrase for you. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
Yeah, that'd be great. You do it.
This is about royalty. And, you know, royalty is like part of imperialism, and it's part of capitalism as well. And just because you're, you know, not the king, you can be the capitalist king as well. But I just love this phrase. He's so quotable. But anyway, it goes, a people mentally poisoned by the adulation of royalty can never attain to that spirit of self-reliant democracy necessary for the attainment of social freedom. The mind accustomed to political kings can easily be reconciled to social kings. Capitalist kings of the workshop, the mill, the railway, the ships, and the docks. Monarchy is a survival of the tyranny imposed by the hand of greed and treachery upon the human race in the darkest and most ignorant days of our history. I mean, if I wrote that one line in my life, I'd be happy, right? But all of his words are like that. Yeah, I'd love you to read that.
My version of this is, I call it peasant brain.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, this is, of course, nowhere near as eloquent, but a lot of people have serf brain, as I like to say, where they think that they too will become a king one day. It's this aspirational goal that I think the capitalist system designs that makes working class people not recognize their class position, not recognize their class interests, and then consistently advocate against it.
Sure. I think when you're young,
we Americans have a lot of that. It's really bad.
for sure.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, for sure, when you're young, you know, somebody dangles this carrot in front of your face and says someday you could be a millionaire if you work hard.
Yeah.
Well, you know, freeing yourself from that as an aim in life is what we should all be aiming for.
Yeah.
Because it's such a useless goal in life.
Yeah.
This is also another book. Maybe we give this to your partner there, your pal. That's on
My partner.
well,
My life partner.
That's on the War of Independence, or the Tan War. And I'll tell you about that when we're out in the streets, because the IRA fought against the black and tans.
Yeah.
Were the ferocious group. And actually, there's a good connection here with Palestine, because when these marauding people, the Tans, were brought to Ireland by Winston Churchill, they arrived here in March 1920. And when they were done here, they were sent over to Palestine to fight against the Arabs. And it's incredibly interesting. They used to pull down your house here if you were in the IRA. Like Michael Collins's house, they pulled it down, his little family home. And the same trick they did over there in Palestine, and the same thing the IDF were doing to Hamas people.
Is that why they say, come out and fight? Yeah, come out and fight me like a man.
Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. It's
show them how you do.
Tell them how.
Tell it how you.
Tell them how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes in
Killer Shan.
Sounds way better.
See, now I'm glad I wasn't drinking, because if I was drinking, I would have started singing that song.
Okay, now we got to get another. See, speaking of,
we need one more.
We need to get topped off here for sure.
Well, do you want to go out and have a look at the streets as well?
This place is sick. I mean, yeah, show the rest of the.
Well, this is a real bar as well. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's fake bars in Temple Bar. There's two.
Oh,
good
that's the one that all the Americans in my chat were like, you gotta go to Temple, you gotta go to Temple. Every Irish person is like, do not go to Temple.
There's two good bars in Temple Bar. The Palace is a great bar, and the Halfpenny Bridge is great, but the rest of them are all run by corporations. They're massive. Like, there's one bar called the Temple Bar, and they put their goddamn Christmas decorations up on the 30th of September this year. Now, there's a special place in hell for anybody who puts their Christmas decorations up in September.
Yeah, chat. In my experience, they do not play around with Christmas out here. They are in the Christmas spirit. It's crazy.
It's a big thing.
You'll see.
And you know, because we're an immigrant nation, you know,
Yeah.
even pre-Ungorta Moor, let's get this right. Ungorta Moor. Ungorta Moor is the Great Hunger, also known as the famine. We don't like to use the term famine because that would indicate that there was no food in the country. There was a natural phenomenon was exacerbated by British government inaction, and I would use the term genocide in the last book I wrote on Mike Quill, the great Mike Quill, who founded the Transport Workers Union of America, great union. John Samuelson's the president of that great union, the man who the first union to back, the first union leader to back Zohran. The first union leader now, not union, okay? But anyway, I digress. But the fact is that food was exported out of this country while people starved to death. Yeah. And in that little book I wrote on Mike Quill, I said, this is it, genocide.
I've heard that there were indigenous populations that were sending food shipments to Ireland, and also the Ottomans as well, from what I... Not to insert the Turkish people in here.
You're correct on both counts.
But that's what I've heard. That's all I've heard, is that there was great respect for, there's like...
I'll tell you the name of the people who sent us money.
Yeah.
Choctaw.
The Choctaw, yeah.
They sent us $170. Now, everybody says it's this amount and that amount. I know exactly how much it is, $170, right? And a few years ago, that's a lot of money for them. They'd only been on the Trail of Tears themselves.
Yeah.
And they were stricken they were affected by our plight, I suppose. And a few years ago when COVID came, there was a... WhatsApp came with a GoFundMe for the Hopi and Choctaw tribe. And at the time, they had about 200 grand in it. And we sent them back about $6 million from Ireland. So we never forget a slight, but we never forget a kindness either. And that is nice payback. And I believe, but I've never really read this, but I believe that 2 students who are Choctaw are allowed to come to Ireland to study every year on a scholarship. I've heard that. I can't absolutely say that's true. But there's also a lovely sort of a memorial down in Cork. And it's some tall feathers, maybe 20 feet tall, about your height. And they're in a circle. And it's called Kindred Spirits. Isn't that beautiful? Kindred Spirits. Like, they're beautiful feathers, like, so they are. Well, look, come on, let's go to Dublin Castle, right? Like your head here.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone here is about 5'2".
You good?
Yeah. Do you want to see this thing here? That was Nelson's pillar. Do you want me to talk about that? Because I already blew that up.
Yeah.
What's this like now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can see there's a stump there. A stump. In 1966, a great man called Liam Sutcliffe put a bomb up the top of Nelson's pillar and blew him up to get rid of him in time for the 50th anniversary of the uprising. And now what's there is the Millennium Spire, the big metallic structure. Did you see that in the middle of the street? It's like 120 meters tall.
I don't think so.
Made of metal. It's got all these nicknames: the stiletto in the ghetto, the nail in the pail, the rod to God. Some rude ones, I'm sorry, the stiffy by the Liffey, the erection at the intersection, the phallus at the palace. They go on and on. But one city councillor said it's like a symbol of a drug city, you know, a gigantic hypodermic needle, right?
At the time we went to Brighton to see where they almost got Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
Almost. She had to be dodging every day. They only had to get it right one time.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, look, I can say to you, she's probably one of the most hated figures in Ireland. And even there's a T-shirt for sale. Sinn Féin have a shop. And I've been reliably informed that the most popular T-shirt still to this day is a Margaret Thatcher, an anti-Margaret Thatcher T-shirt.
Yeah.
I think the phrase on the T-shirt is, "I still hate Thatcher." And I'd be honest with you, she's long dead, but I still kind of hate her. And it would be over the hunger strikes, really. What do you think of Margaret Thatcher, young man?
I wouldn't think a lot about her going back to the late 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
How she disrupted this country and the things that she did. She really ran us down.
There you go. There you go. That's just a random dude.
No comment. Oh, sorry. I was just listening.
I'm glad you didn't turn to me and go, "Oh, I loved her. She was great."
Yeah.
And let me down.
Proper painted.
Thanks, Alan.
Let him breathe.
Oh, look at that.
Do you know this guy?
Yeah, I don't know that guy. Donald Trump.
In action. Laugh out loud.
Oh, so there's comedy here
Yeah,
happening
and
as well.
they've had comedy for maybe 40 years now. The Comedy Cellar, which is upstairs. That's one of their jokes, I guess. Like, so Dublin's great in the Christmas lights as well.
Yeah.
We're
very
we're kind of mad about Christmas. I was going to get back to that with you. But a lot of that has to do with us being an emigrant nation, right?
Yeah.
So the one time we come back, everybody is for Christmas. Here's Santa Claus.
Kidding, Grinch.
What the hell?
Elaborate.
The Grinch of bollocks. He is a bollocks, the Grinch, isn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, people would always kind of look forward to that Christmas buzz coming back together. And I suppose for Americans, Thanksgiving is a big thing, but of course we don't do Thanksgiving because we didn't murder a load of natives so that you could eat turkeys. We just celebrate Halloween instead.
Yeah.
And of course Halloween is an Irish festival. So
Is it originally?
very much so. Very much
Okay.
so. Now we had turnips. Do you know turnips? Like,
Yeah.
A turnip would be a big turnip, right? And we would carve that, and that's a jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, so instead
Because-
of pumpkins, you do turnips.
Yeah, because the turnips in America were very small, so instead they chose to use pumpkins. But now the pumpkin, in the past 25, maybe 30 years, has started to come to Ireland. So I promise you, the real jack-o'-lantern comes from this nation. So I'm going to bring you down towards Dublin Castle, which was the seat of the British military and intelligence and police and government for centuries. So just in case nobody knows, we are one of the longest colonized nations in that the Normans came here in 1169, and ever since then there has been some interference from England. And even today, as I said, 6 counties of Ireland are still technically under the yoke of John Bull, as we like to say. This is a pub here called the George, which is LGBTQ plus I bar. Hope I got that right. Which shows how very advanced a nation we are. Hey, Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful, important people to us. I don't get upset when, celebrities die. Like, I like David Bowie. I wasn't crying when he died, but Sinead's death hit most of my generation. I'm Gen X, obviously. And she was able to vocalize our ideology when we didn't have words to put together ourselves, okay? So remember Ireland, when I was a kid, we had no contraception, we had no divorce, and we had no abortion. So it's a very different nation, thanks to people like Sinead and others who campaigned to bring about social change.
It's by no means of mental sanity being well adjusted to a mentally unstable nation or mentally unstable society.
Well done.
I butchered it.
Brilliant. No, you did great. You did great.
Perfect.
Imagine when you were allowed to bring a condom into Ireland for your own use, but you weren't allowed to get them around. They wouldn't be for sale. And I have a very good friend. He died recently. Frank Crummy is his name. He's in his 80s. He was friends with my family, and Frank used to go to Belfast and bring back a lot of condoms, and once he had 20,000 condoms in the back of his car, and he was stopped at the border.
He was
so-called border,
sneaking his condom,
and he said to the customs agent, "They're all for my own use." So your man put the boot of the car down and he said, "Enjoy your weekend, Mr. Crummy." So there you go, right? That's a pretty cool place there. Look, Sick and Indigent Rune Keeper Society, except a charity way back there. I'm on inside here at Dublin Castle. Well, there's just again, to stress to you, there's a sort of a mix of buildings in here. You've got very modern, like this pretty ugly asbestos-ridden type monstrosity. Thank you very much, Sweden, for all you did for the world. ABBA and this kind of shit building. But this is the great one over here, you see. To 1229. Now, they start building it in 1204. Then there was a very bad fire and a lot of the rest of the other towers all fell down. They were knocked down and what have you. So when they went to rebuild, this is what we call the Georgian period. Now, as an Irish Republican, I hate the fact that we name epochs in our history after British royals. But Georgian, Edwardian, Victorian, they're very typical things. That's the Chapel Royale that they tagged on. Now, I used to be very annoyed with that, but now I'm kind of glad because I see that they buttressed the tower there by joining it to it, okay? So there were 3 men who ran Ireland. You've got the Viceroy, the King's representative, and he lived in the Phoenix Park in a lovely house, which our President of Ireland now occupies. Catherine Connolly is our brand new president. Your viewers might be more familiar with the previous one, Michael D. Higgins. But what's beautiful about them taking his house is the other guy was unelected, but now the person who lives in it is elected. And across the road, the neighbour is the residence of the ambassador from America to Ireland. And that used to be occupied by the British, the second in command here, the chief secretary. And then there was a third guy, the undersecretary, who also lived in the lodge in the Phoenix Park. So the Phoenix Park was very important in that respect, that the great representatives for Britain living here all lived out there, okay? Now, they wrote to each other because they were separated because of the war during 1916. They were, the chief secretary was over in England, but in their correspondence, there's lots of mentions of Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin. So they say things like, the Sinn Féiners are up to something. So Dublin Castle was quite aware that some sort of trouble was coming about in 1916. They just weren't exactly sure what was going to happen, but they did have an idea that trouble was brewing. Do you get me?
So Sinn Féin, before it was a established political party, was a movement. It was an anti-colonial, anti-imperialist movement.
Do you know what? In 1905, when it was founded first, it was just a very small political party who wanted a Buy Irish campaign. They weren't into violence in any way, but they got the blame for the uprising and rose phenomenally. Now, to give you an example for America, how small Sinn Féin was in 1905, imagine the Green Party of Texas, 1974. You get me? And then imagine they became the number one political party within 2.5 years. In December 1918, in the post-war election in Britain and in Ireland, there were 105 seats available for Ireland for Westminster, and Sinn Féin got 73 seats out of 105. And of course, they didn't go to Westminster. They abstained. They said, we won't go over there. Why should we go over to London when we're Irish Republicans? And they founded their own political institution, Dáil Éireann, which means Irish Assembly. And of course, the day that sat for the first time, the 21st of January 1919, happened to be the same day that Dan Breen and Sean Tracy and Sean Hogan and Seamus Robinson, a man who had fought in the GPO in 1916, they jumped out on 2 policemen and shot them dead, thus starting the War of Independence. Proper, if you will. Actually, you could look up Dan Breen on YouTube and you'll see an interview with him. I think it's Cathal O'Shannon interviews him, and he says, Dan, do you have any regrets about shooting the 2 policemen? And he says,
shot enough policemen?
Yeah, this is what he said. He said, regrets? I have regrets. I regret the fact that 6 policemen didn't turn up. I wanted to shoot 6 of them. I thought we needed to start a war and we needed to shoot someone. And we chose the police as the armed wing of English imperialism in Ireland. So we did, yeah. This is also a scene from a movie called Michael Collins, right? Now, Michael Collins is kind of a sort of a popcorn introduction to Irish Revolution, okay? Because that movie has Julia Roberts in it. And most movies that have Julia Roberts in it, with the exception of Erin Brockovich, tend to be, you know, a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're providing them a day?
Say that. Except for Pretty Woman, because that's my favourite movie.
Okay,
I love the beautiful message to sex workers, you know, hang in there, baby. Someday you're going to meet a rich, handsome millionaire. And that's true, of course.
You're missing gold here.
I'm missing.
No, I'm telling you.
No.
Because when he moves away, because it's a shock.
No, they can still hear it.
When he moves away, it's just like you can barely hear it. But
So look, you'd recognise this movie because there was this so-called, and I don't like this phrase, handover when the British give Dublin Castle back to the Irish in 1920.
why do you like the phrase?
Because they actually brought Mick Collins in here and some of the cabinet, showed them around for 20 minutes, and then the lads walked back out. This is January 1922, and then they don't really hand it over for months after, right, till really August, okay? Now,
They were just holding on to it for a little bit longer.
and also, there was no handover of Ireland when 6 counties were still held onto, you know?
Yeah.
So the split in our nation comes in 1920 when the British introduced new legislation called the Government of Ireland Act, and they invent this fake geographical region, which they call Northern Ireland.
I don't know what that is. We just know it as the north of
6
Ireland.
counties, or the north,
Yeah,
exactly.
the north of Ireland.
I like it, and we don't like. But you know, language is funny because it insidiously sort of sneaks into the vocabulary of people,
Yeah.
and it comes out all the time because there's newspapers here that use the phrase all the time, and the TV stations that use the phrase all the time. But most of us who have half a brain always recognise it as the 6 counties.
Yeah, we'll be in the north of Ireland tomorrow in Belfast.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk to you about some people to talk to as well, okay? Maybe off.
Let me get a shot of this real quick.
There's a statue up here of Justice, and you can see she has her back to the people of Dublin. And there's a great phrase about her, a great poem. The statue of Justice mark well her station, her face to the castle and her arse to the nation, that there would be no justice to ever be expected from here. And if you look over there in the middle row, in the middle floor, there's a room in at the back called the Connolly Room, where James Connolly, having been wounded in action in 1916 in the shoulder and in the ankle, was brought to be looked after by the British Army, doctors and nurses, and they had a trial around his bed, a courts-martial, and he was sentenced to be executed like his other comrades. And even though he was wounded, they brought him up by ambulance to Kilmainham Jail on the 12th of May and strapped him to a chair and executed him. It's a 12-man firing squad. Now, I'd like 12 men in my firing squad. I don't want one man, because that's going to, he could miss or he could hit you in the arm. So with 12 man, it sounds awful, but it's actually kind of better if you think about it. But 11 of them were given live rounds and one had a conscience round, because nobody wants to be the fella to shoot a wounded man or anybody.
So no one knows. It's a way to abdicate the moral responsibility of being the person that commits the deed.
You got it. So when you're lying in bed at night, you want to say, well, there's a 1 in 12 chance that I was not the one who shot that great man. But what it did for James Connolly, in my opinion, was it elevated him massively. He became a Labour martyr. And we did love our martyrs. I still love our martyrs. And maybe martyr is an archaic phrase for some people, but to me, that was the phrase people used at the time, the 1916 martyrs, the revolutionary martyrs and what have you. So Connolly, his works were published en masse in the aftermath. Photographs of him and others were circulated in postcard format, and he became, with Patrick Henry Pearse, the symbol of the revolutionary struggle from then on. You know, Patrick Henry Pearse is named after Patrick Henry the Virginian, you know, who uttered that immortal phrase, give me liberty or give me death. But Patrick Henry had slaves. Now, here's where we're going to lose all your Virginian supporters.
No. They're woke.
Maybe he meant to say, give me liberty for male, middle-class Caucasians.
Property owners.
Or give me death.
Yeah.
But still, it's a great phrase. So Patrick, don't hold it against our Patrick Henry. His father named him after that. His father was an English Protestant. Let's get this straight. It wasn't about religion. It's all about freedom, equality as well.
When we first came into Ireland, when we landed, Irish is mandated on all the signs.
Sure.
The Irish language.
Yeah.
And yet, I was asking around, a lot of the young kids, like they don't know how to speak it. They barely know how to read it.
It just depends. It just depends who you meet. Hang on a sec here. Look, the language is so important, because what the imperialists try to do is destroy the language, tell you that what you speak is backwards, your poetry is backwards and foolish. And if they destroy the language, they destroy your soul. And it was Pearse who said, Tirgan Chonga, Tirgan Anam, a country without a language is a country without a soul. And what did they do when they went to America and to Australia? They destroyed the language and the culture and made people speak the common language of English, which, you know, it's great that we can communicate, you and me, all right? But it's also important that we try our best to hang on to our language, because if we lose the language, we lose everything.
I know very few. I know only a little bit, and I know the is it Slancha, and then I know Chucky Arla. That's all. Our time will come, and cheers.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
If you're going to Belfast, you've got it down to a T. So you see this building here, this in Hall, and it was occupied by the Irish Citizen Army at 12 noon in 1916. A great man called Sean Connolly, no relation to James Connolly, but he came leading his men and women around. Remember, they're the Workers' Defence Force. There was a policeman standing at the gates, Constable James O'Brien was his name, and he was shot dead. And about an hour into it, Sean Connolly was shot dead, and a man called Sean O'Reilly took over and he was killed. And then a woman called Dr. Kathleen Lynn was the one who had the honour of leading the garrison and surrendered them after a day and a half. Now, Dr. Lynn is a Protestant, and obviously she's female, and she found it very difficult to be accepted as a doctor. She had to go abroad to study, but she's also gay. She was a lesbian. Herself and her lover, Madeleine French Mullen, she fought in the Rising as well. So there are lots of women especially who may not have kind of fitted into into society at the time. So it's very important to recognize that we know now that people obviously were gay at the time, but they weren't shouting about it, if you will. But again, they'd be attracted to the radicalism of James Connolly in City Hall. It's no surprise to learn that most of those people were associated with the Irish Citizen Army. As you're standing underneath our flag, very important to point out, it comes from a great man who was in America later on, Thomas Francis Meagher, Meagher of the Sword, from the Battle of Antietam and bloody Fredericksburg. And on St. Patrick's Day, 1848, he hoisted that flag up outside the Confederate Club in Waterford. It's green, it's his invention, green for national sentiment and Catholicism, white for peace, and orange for our northern brethren, the Orange Order, the Orange Men, the Protestant. So it's a flag of peace and reconciliation. Now, a month later...
That's why orange is the color the Unions used too, right?
Correct.
So,
correct. Because of William of Orange and the Battle of the Boyne. But a month after that, he was over in revolutionary Paris, the Second Republic. And the French women sewed him up the flag of green, white, and orange, and he brought it back and he presented it to the mayor of Dublin.
Wasn't it a French woman for the American flag too, or initially?
Well, most republics' flags are based on the French colours, the tricolour. But now we're going to get bogged down in a discussion about whether or not America is a republic, and it's a very difficult decision because you have to start talking about different things then, don't you? A confederation of states or whatever. But most other republics, a lot of people think that Gandhi chose the colours for the Indian flag over our flag. That's not true. Gandhi's flag is saffron and the land, orange, and the land is green. However, it's a nice story, but God help anybody from India who comes here, because they'd be cornered in a bar by people telling them that Gandhi loved Ireland so much, he chose our colours. Like, Gandhi's a great bloke, don't get me wrong. There's plenty wrong with him as well, though. I mean, sleeping with your nieces is a little bit dodgy, if you ask me, even if he is just trying to test himself. But, that's wrong. Let's get that across to people. It is wrong. But other things about him are quite good, weren't they?
I want to know what you would be like if you had a couple pints in you at this point. It's crazy.
No, it's quite nice. Do you want to come around the corner? Because I'd love to show you a place where 3 men were tortured and murdered by the British.
That's a crazy switch off, yeah.
So come on down this way here. See these cobbles? They're set stones. We call them cobblestones, but the proper term is set stones. And the old streets of Dublin all would have had this sort of rickety style. Lethal on a bicycle or a motorbike in the rain, but very, very beautiful, much more beautiful than Tarmacadam. I'm glad to say the Hard Rock Cafe seems to have closed down in Dublin. And that's the kind of thing that gets me excited, when we reject something like that to the extent that they move off somewhere else. We have a campaign against Starbucks and McDonald's as well going on.
BDS.
Successful. You want to see some women's names here? This plaque went up on the 90th anniversary of the Rising, and it lists all the names of everybody in City Hall. But look at the names: Kathleen Barrett, Bridget Davis, Dr. Lynn. It should say doctor there. It's a pity it doesn't. An American said to me, why don't you carve in MD? That's a good idea after her name. Bessie Lynch. Helena Maloney used to go around the town and she'd meet other women and she'd have a chat with them for a few minutes, and then the next thing is she's linking them, bringing them down to meet James Connolly in Liberty Hall. These two sisters, Annie and Emily Norgrove, were 19 and 21 years of age, which sounds very young until you come to Molly O'Reilly, who was 15 years of age when she was fighting down here in 1916. Wow. And that's young Jenny Shanahan. I think she was 21 years of age. Incredible altogether. These are some reinforcements sent from the GPO to City Hall. And look at this name, George Norgrove. That's their dad. And he came along here. Now, what do you think your dad's going to say to you if you're a young lady? He's going to say, honey, I'm very proud of you. Go on home. But he just gave them a cheery, how are you girls? And fought alongside them, because he's a socialist Republican. So he believes they have every right to fight for their freedom as well as any young man had as well. Isn't that kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a young man here. Where is he going? I see Arthur King, Samuel King, and George King. Now, there were 2 of them brothers, I think, and one was a cousin, and they were all together in Richmond Barracks. They were lined up, and an officer shouted out, "Line up! Give your names to the commanding officer, your surname, followed by your Christian name." So the first one of them says, "King Arthur." And then the next one goes, "King George." And the other one goes, "King Samuel." So there was a bit of murder until it was sorted out because they thought they were taking the mickey. But listen, a lot of these guys gave false names when they were arrested. And then they were sent to prisons in England and Scotland and Wales. And there's one specific prisoner of war camp in northwest Wales where 1,800 men were interned. Frongok. And we call Frongok the University of Irish Revolution, because those who came out of that jail were confirmed revolutionaries, and the nucleus of the IRA was created there. So maybe tomorrow in Belfast, you might meet some people who are in Long Kesh, which we call the University of Irish Freedom. That's from the 1970s and 80s and 90s as well, okay? Anyway, come on around here. So Bloody Sunday happened on the 21st of November 1920, but we have more than one Bloody Sunday. We've really got 4 Bloody Sundays in Irish history. I'll run through them with you. We won't go right down because there's some people who live here and I don't want to disturb them. But there's a plaque to 3 men, Dick McKee, Sagar Clancy, and Connor Clune. Now McKee and Clancy were top IRA volunteers. They were the brigadier and the vice brigadier, but they were arrested by the auxiliary division. They're like the Black and Tans, but they're worse. They were officers from World War I who came to Ireland. They got a tremendous pay, 3 or 4 times the wages of a normal policeman, but they abused these men here on that morning. Now, Clancy and McKee were IRA, but Connor Clune wasn't in the IRA, even though it says on the plaque that he was. He was posthumously awarded membership of the IRA. But the same day, the IRA shot 19 British spies and agents around Dublin, 14 of whom died. They're agents, they're spies, whatever. They're playing war, okay?
Yeah.
Then the Black and Tans and the auxiliaries drove up to Croke Park Football Stadium, burst in there and shot wildly into the crowd of people who were watching a football match between Tipperary and Dublin at the time. Then they came back here and they murdered the 3 men. And they released a statement, something like 3 IRA suspects were shot whilst trying to escape. So that's why we call that day Bloody Sunday, because altogether 14 and 14, 28 plus 3 is 31. But another Bloody Sunday more recently is the 30th of January 1972, when the Parachute Regiment of the British Army murdered 13, and 1 man died later, as a matter of fact, so 14 on the streets of Derry. So that's another Bloody Sunday. That's the one that Bono, who's a bit of an asshole, let's face it, he sings about that song. In fact, he was interviewed recently on the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and he said he didn't write that song about Bloody Sunday. And then all the people were going, "Bono, you clearly did. I can't believe the news today. I should close my eyes and make it go away." And he said, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I did write about it." Okay, so yeah.
No, I don't know what happened to that guy.
Who, Bono? Well, let me show this to you, especially for your younger viewers. This is a thing called a mailbox or postbox. So before Snapchat, you had to write your message and you put it in here. You never put your hand all the way in there because you don't know, you could be pulled in there by a clown or something like that. But all of these were read in Ireland in 1916. And when we got the Free State in 1922, they were painted green. We always joked that the only thing the Free State government did as regards change was to buy 200 tons of green paint and veneer over the red post boxes and stand back and go, now we have a nation. But how I know for sure that that was red, because it has ER, Edward Rex, Edward 7, VII. Sometimes you'll see GR, Georgius Rex, and the worst of all, VR, Victoria Regina. Let me repeat that in case people think I said the wrong thing. Regina. And she's the famine queen, as Maud Gonne called her, because she presided over on Gorta Moor, the Great Hunger. She did donate £500. Big deal. Big deal, right? That's nothing to her. That's like I don't know, who's rich? Elon Musk. Is he rich? Is he a rich guy?
Pretty rich.
He's pretty rich. That's like him giving, 20 grand or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay? So big deal, right? Let's bring it down. I'd love to show you a little street here called Eustace Street, where we have a plaque, a memorial. It's a good pub here, named after the man who wrote our national anthem, the Soldier's Song in English, subsequently translated, so it was. So that's Patrick. We played our song, which was subsequently translated into Irish, Auron Naviim, the Soldier's Song. And it's a great song, and it kind of means a lot to us as well.
Yeah.
And it's so important that people know the words of it and they sing it. People are always up for singing it, aren't they? Yeah. You know the song. You sing along, don't you? When Auron Naviim. There's the proclamation. So you're in a good bar when the proclamation is up. Yeah. Bar? Yeah, exactly.
That's good to know.
And also, if you go into somebody's house and the proclamation is in their hallway, it's the kind of a good house. I always feel more relaxed in somebody's house when that's hanging there. So that little proclamation I gave you got to put that into an A5.
I want to put it up.
Then stick it in your just above your bed, eh?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the entrance.
Presumably you have marks and angles above your bed, though.
I have a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I should tell you, and my wife will kill me for this, but we have a massive, massive portrait of James Connolly above our bed. And I must be the only Irishman who gets away with that in the bedroom. I'll show you this plaque to Frederick Douglass and just tell you that, because that's a pretty important.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm very proud of that plaque as well. I think it's a cool thing. I never saw two lads to drink so quickly, in all fairness. These are great.
Yeah.
What were we going to say?
We're on a tight schedule,
Yeah. We are now in the hell of Temple Bar. But there's cool things here, including the Irish Film Institute, the IFI, who have very avant-garde movies on. This is where, look at this plaque here, this is where the Society of the United Irishmen, the Dublin branch, were founded in here in 1791. And look at the name of the pub, the Eagle Tavern. It's great that they were founded in a tavern, like a boozer. It wasn't a cafe or a restaurant. It's Dublin, we're not French. It was a boozer. That's where you want to find your revolutionary organisations. Then it became the Friends Meeting House. The Quakers were very good to people in Ireland during An Gcomhartha Mór as well, because they fed people without demanding that they should go to a ceremony, a religious ceremony. So here, look, here's the plaque. It's very new as well, went up in 2022 to Frederick Douglass, who all your readers will know is a great guy who campaigned vigorously against enslavement and spoke so eloquently and wrote so beautifully as well. I think he wrote 4 books. I only read one of them. I only read Narrative of a Slave. But in the Irish edition, there's a letter from Belfast where there's now a statue to Frederick Douglass. Oh, wow. You'll see that tomorrow, I hope. But he wrote about the great welcome that he had in Ireland. And he said he came here for 3 weeks, but he stayed for 4 months, okay? So however long you may be here, it would be great if you'd extend it. I hope, you might feel welcomed here as well. But Frederick Douglass, I'll just tell you this one lovely story about him. When he was on the boat coming over from America, the passengers asked him to speak, and he said, "I will if the captain allows it." And 3 plantation owners said to Douglass, "If you try and speak, we're going to throw you overboard." And it was a big Irishman who stood between Douglas's aggressors, and he said to them, "If there's any swimming to be done on this voyage, you 3 are the first to get wet." So isn't that beautiful that Irishman stood between him and maybe saved them? But he had a great welcome altogether. He said, I felt for the first time in my life in Ireland that I was truly a free man. Not once did anybody say to me, "You cannot come into this establishment because of the colour of your skin," which is very cool, all right?
My limited experience, at least, like I joke about this because I saw the Obama,
Yeah.
the gas station dedicated to Obama.
Yeah.
But like Irish people are very they're very white, but they're very white on the outside, but inside they resemble a lot of qualities of people from the global south in many respects.
It's a very famous sign. I love it. I think it's got a protection order on it now. Boy got bald, and it just flash on and off. 1 minute he has no hair, and the next minute he has hair as well. Famous in The Butcher Boy, a great book, and a great movie as well, as a matter of fact. And look at this.
Yeah, it is.
Huge proclamation, you see?
Yeah.
See how important it is to us?
That's it.
There's a little mistake in the original proclamation. There's an upside down E.
Oh yeah, right there.
Where?
Very well spotted. And I like it because, you know, Persian bookmakers used to put a mistake in on purpose because only Allah can do something in perfection. So they would point out where the mistake was. Do you get it? And like this, I think that the upside down E is for a little humility. Even though it's a mistake, they spotted it, they left it in. It took so long to get it ready for the printer's block anyway. They hadn't time to go and do it all again either, so they didn't do it. They're in the Christmas
Time for the bells.
and a lot of people are already starting this. Is this a tradition in America, the 12 pubs of Christmas? Did you ever hear of that?
The 12 pubs of Christmas?
Where you wear a stupid Christmas jumper and you and your mates go to 12 pubs. But rarely do pubs let them in. They don't really want that kind of business. And also, by the time you're at your 8th pub, you've all separated into little groups, and you know, the worst drinker amongst you is lying in a gutter dying.
A pub crawl.
Yeah, it's a pub crawl, but it's called the 12 pubs of Christmas, like the 12
I think they
days
do
of
it. They do
Christmas.
different versions of it where they dress up.
All right.
I think they do it for Halloween and they do it for Christmas too. I think, but it's not the
Right.
same as 12 pubs.
Yeah, well, it's a big thing, and it kind of happens around about now as well. People are already in the Christmas buzz, I suppose.
You rarely ever meet someone automatically, and you're like, oh, they get it. Irish people,
They get
they get it. Yes, from the start. Their starting position is getting it. Many Americans, unfortunately, they don't get it. You gotta work them into it.
That's our car.
But
See
you
it,
were
man.
amazing.
You've been alright.
You were amazing.
Spectacular. Thank
You're
you
great.
so much
Thanks for
everything.
having me. You know, it's brilliant, right?
Shout it out.
Such
for
a
the-
pleasure.
Shout out.
One more time.
I hope to
Instagram.
see. The Instagram is 1916 walking tour. Don't do the Twitter. Don't do the Facebook, because I had a Facebook, but I can't remember what it is. But the Instagram is what's cool, isn't it?
All right, well,
and
thank you so much.
I hope to see some of your viewers on my walking tour, 1916rising.com.
They'll be
I wish
fun.
you guys the best, all right?
All right.
Say hello. I'm going to
Thank
text
you.
you some people in Belfast
All right.
that you should go and see.
Thank you.
I'd love you to go to the James Connolly Visitor Centre. Really brilliant place, okay?
All right.
You meet
We're
some
gonna
great
do
heads.
a black cab tour.
Yeah, you do a black cab tour as well, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Mind yourselves.
Bye.
Thanks a
Have a
million.
great night. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. That was crazy.